No matter what you're eating during today's Warriors game, sharing a jar of Mazzetta makes it better. Just pop open that red cap to give your favorite snacks something extra, like crunchy jalapenos on nachos or zesty peppercini on sandwiches and sliders. It's just better. Mazzetta is a family-owned Bay Area company providing peppers, olives, pickled vegetables, and sauces since 1935. At Mazzetta, we say that when you share your food, you share a part of who you are. So grab your family and friends and share some unforgettable flavors with Mazzetta.
The lights, the crowd, the moment. When the Warriors take the floor, greatness follows. At Cache Creek Casino Resort, every moment shines. Feel the rush as the reels spin. Breathe in our serene spa. Savor each bite in our award-winning steakhouse. And recharge in the comfort of our luxurious hotel. Cache Creek Casino Resort, proud partner of your Golden State Warriors. Please play responsibly.
Kia is the official automotive partner of the NBA. And we think about basketball a lot. The plays, the swagger, the glory, the game. And how we can elevate our own game with capability that takes us to another level. And ground clearance that propels us even higher. The 3-row 2025 Kia Telluride X-Line all-wheel drive. Kia, official vehicle partner of the Golden State Warriors. Call 800-333-4KIA for details. Always drive safely. Limited inventory available.
Thanks for showing up, Dub Nation. Nothing beats catching your Warriors live, and nobody knows that better than you. So next time you want to hit up a game, Ticketmaster's got your back. As the official ticket marketplace of the Warriors and the NBA, even if you're headed to the game last minute, Ticketmaster gets you to the game so you can experience all the sights, sounds, and styles in person. Keep putting that jersey collection to use and get Warriors tickets today at Ticketmaster. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com/Warriors. See you courtside again soon, Dub Nation.
This next one's for all you CarMax shoppers who just want to buy a car your way.
Wanna check some cars out in person? Wanna look some more from your house? Okay.
Want to pretend you know about engines?
Nah, I'll just chat with CarMax online instead.
Wanna get pre-qualified from your couch? Woo! Wanna get that car?
Hey, SAP!
You wanna do it your way.
Want to drive? CarMax.
1 in 8 women have thyroid issues.
Am I the one? I am kind of tired. I should see a doctor. Is it genetic? Does my health plan even cover tests like that? In-network? Out-of-network? Why is this always a whole big thing? Wait. I have Kaiser Permanente. So my coverage includes regular preventive care. Guess it doesn't have to be a whole big thing.
Kaiser Permanente. Healthcare that just works.
To Curry, pump fake, flyby, 3-ball, got it with the buzzer sounding!
You've been listening to Golden State Warriors basketball on the Warriors Radio Network. Presented by United Airlines. For tickets, visit Warriors.com or call 888-GSW-WHO.
You wish you were here.
Happy holidays, Dub Nation. The deals are dropping, and Rakuten is here to help you save big this season. With Rakuten, you can stack cash back on top of holiday sales to maximize your savings. Whether you're shopping gifts for everyone on your list at your favorite stores, or scoring 10% cash back at the Warriors shop. Make this holiday season the most rewarding one yet. Join for free at Rakuten.com or download the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN.
Dub Nation, NBC Sports Bay Area is your home for complete Warriors coverage. Catch Steph and the squad all season long as Bob Fitzgerald and Kalina Azubuike call all the action. Tune in to Warriors pre- and post-game live, hosted by me, Bonte Hill, alongside NBA champ Festus Ezeli and Hall of Famer Chris Bullen. 1 hour before and immediately after every single game. Plus nonstop Warriors content with the NBC Sports Bay Area app. Authentic moments live here on NBC Sports Bay Area.
It's the most wonderful time of the year because the season of Toyotathon is on with incredible deals you don't want to miss. For Toyotathon, get low 1.99% financing plus $1,000 finance cash on the 2025 Tacoma. Or get low 2.99% financing plus $1,000 finance cash on the 2026 Tundra. Hurry because Toyotathon ends January 5th. Toyota, let's go places. Offer available through TFS to buyers with premium rated credit and cannot be combined with other offers. Finance cash must be applied to transaction.
What if you had the smartest Wi-Fi? If you did, it'd be Xfinity, of course, and it'd come with their best state-of-the-art equipment. It would boost speeds to the devices that needed them most, prioritizing your most important connections, whether you were streaming, gaming, or gaming while pretending to work. And it would let you stream 4. That's right, 4 games on one screen. It would even power your mobile connection so you could bring faster, secure Wi-Fi speeds with you where you use it most. It would be proactive and fix problems before you knew you had them. Impressive, right? And it would have security features that protect you from threats at home and online. Kinda like a force field for your life. If you had the smartest Wi-Fi, well, everything would work together seamlessly to keep you connected, no matter what. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ-FM in HD1 San Francisco, on Odyssey Sports Station and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries. Always live on the free Odyssey app and now coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios.
This Odyssey Sports
Orlando will take a last-second 3. Howard off the mark, healed the rebound. And the Warriors, after snapping a 3-game skid this weekend, stack a second consecutive victory against an impressive Orlando Magic group. Final score, Warriors 120, Orlando 97, as they get it done on both ends. Led by Curry's 26, Moody's 20, Butler's 21, and Pajemski's 16. An all-around effort from the Warriors tonight, feeling a lot better than they did a week ago as they earn their way back to 500, now 15-15 on the season.
Pretty dang cool to hear Evan Giddings wrap up that Warriors broadcast here on 95.7 The Game. Now welcome in to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you to discuss this Warrior win. As you just heard Evan say, 120-97, Warriors knock off the Magic. They use a dominant fourth quarter in which they outscored Orlando 31-14. Really, it was a run that began at the tail end of the third quarter, led into the fourth quarter, and the Warriors run away with this one. They win by 23 points, and as you heard Evan mention, the Warriors are back to 500 after consecutive wins. They beat Phoenix on Saturday, they beat Orlando tonight, and the Warriors back to 500 at 15-15. Welcome in, Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you. This was a hell of a team win for the Warriors in this one. Steph Curry finishes this one with 26 points, but he was a volume shooter tonight, 10 for 23. He really couldn't find much offensively in the first half. Just had 8 points on 3 for 13 shooting. Was 0 for 6 from downtown. Then took over. He was amazing in the third quarter, Steph, was the fact that the Warriors had a lead by 1 point at halftime, despite 3 for 13 from Steph, was pretty darn impressive. Then Steph got going in the third quarter. He finishes the third quarter with 15 points, a perfect 6 for 6 from the field, 3 for 3 from downtown. Began the fourth quarter on the floor. This is a new wrinkle for Steve Kerr and Steph Curry and Steph's rotations. He plays his normal allotment of minutes, essentially, in the first quarter and in the third quarter, which is somewhere around 7 or 8 minutes to begin each half. And then he normally would sit for the first, big chunk of the, he'd sit for the rest of the first and third quarter, and then sit for the first 4 or 5 minutes of the second and fourth quarters, and then he'd come in and play the rest of the quarters. What's happening now is he still plays about 7 or 8 minutes to begin the first and third quarters, sits the rest of those quarters, then he begins the second and fourth quarter on the floor, rests in the middle, and then plays the final handful of minutes in both the second and fourth quarters. What that does is it allows the Warriors to get off to, in theory, get off to better starts in those second and fourth quarters. And tonight specifically, he played the first chunk of minutes in the fourth quarter, which is why the Warriors got off to a gigantic run in that fourth quarter. It was a 10-0 run. It turned into a 16-3 run, and Steph played the first about 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. The Warriors were plus 12 in those 5 minutes, which took what was a decent three-quarter lead. They were up by 6 after 3. It turned it into an 18-point Warrior lead when Steph checked out with about 7 minutes to go. And one thing that I wrote in my notes at this point was, does Steph playing the beginning of the fourth quarter allow him to rest for the rest of the fourth quarter? And yes, it did, because the Warriors pulled away in that fourth quarter. Now, it wasn't just Steph in the fourth quarter. In fact, it really wasn't a lot of Steph in the fourth quarter. He was amazing in the third, the fourth quarter, and I think the story of this basketball game was it was about a lot of guys that chipped in for the Warriors tonight. That 16-3 run that began the fourth, as I mentioned, it turned the Warriors' lead from 6 to 19. They led 105-86. Those 16 points were scored by Podziemski, who scored 6, Post, who scored 4, Moody, who scored 3, and Steph, who scored 3. That was the 16 points over the first about 5 minutes of the fourth quarter for the Warriors. It was a team effort. The phrase that Dub Nation says that the Warriors say a lot is strength in numbers, and that's what the case was tonight. Steph finishes with 26 points, Jimmy Butler with 21, Moses Moody 20, Podziemski 16. I thought Podziemski was the best player on the floor tonight on either team. Podziemski was a plus 36 in this game. Now, the Warriors won by 27, so you're probably going to get some pretty gaudy plus-minuses. Moses Moody was a plus 23, Steph Curry a plus 17, Quentin Post a plus 10. Off the bench, Guy Santos was a plus 14. That was only in 10 minutes, by the way. That's pretty impressive as well by Guy Santos. But, wow. Podziemski was awesome in this game. You know how difficult it is to, while you're on the floor for 28 minutes, outscore your opponents by 36 points? And it's not, of course, all Podziemski. It's when he was out there, other players were playing well as well. But, man, Podziemski had himself a really great game. The numbers don't jump out at you. 16 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, turned the ball over twice, had a steal, had a block. One of his rebounds was an offensive rebound. This is a classic game of if you watched the game, you saw his impact. At least I hope you would have seen his impact. If you're a box score stat watcher, you wouldn't have appreciated what Podziemski did today. Diving on the floor for loose balls, getting his hands in passing lanes, knocking balls away, just generally being a pest. And then, again, going 6 for 10 from the field, making a couple of threes, setting his teammates up at times. I thought Podziemski had himself an awesome basketball game. Very, very much similar for Moses Moody, who scored 20 points on 8 of 11 shooting. Moses had an awesome shooting game, also had 3 rebounds and 3 assists. And much like Podziemski, Moses was doing a lot of the little things, a lot of the dirty work, as I see on the YouTube chat. Apollo shouting out pods for that. Moody was doing the same thing as well. And if you want to join the YouTube conversation, you can do so on YouTube, youtube.com/957thegame. You can also join the conversation by shooting me a text or giving me a call at 888-957-9570. Again, that's 888-957-9570. You can call in and talk to me or shoot me a text on the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. Jimmy Butler didn't get up as many shots as he had each of the last couple of games, but was very efficient in this game. He scored 21 points, 7 for 9 from the field, got to the line 7 times, made 6 of them, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. He was good, and when the Warriors threw the ball into him, needing a bucket, which was the majority of the first half, he took advantage. And he came through for the Warriors when they needed it. This really was a team effort tonight. I thought Quentin Post, who I talked about a lot in the pregame show as a guy to look for on the glass against this tall Magic team. I told you, if you partake in the gambling scene, Quentin Post, I liked his over on rebounds. 4.5 rebounds was the line. He finished with 12 boards tonight. Quentin Post scored 8 points, 4 for 10 from the field, missed all 3 of his threes. It was not a banner day offensively for Quentin Post. But what he did defensively and on the glass to help the Warriors in this rebounding battle, I said this is a game where you could lose the rebounding battle but still win the basketball game. I was expecting maybe they might lose it by 10 or 7 rebounds or something like that. They lost the rebounding battle by just 1. 48 rebounds for Orlando and 47 for the Warriors. In terms of the offensive rebounds, Orlando had 16, the Warriors had 14. Second chance points favored the Warriors, and they favored the Warriors in a huge, huge, huge way. 24 second chance points for the Warriors, 9 for the Magic. And the offensive rebounding category was led by Quentin Post, who had 4 of the Warriors' 14 offensive rebounds. So Quentin Post's offense was not amazing today, but what he did defensively, trying to limit some of the bigs of Orlando, and they have a lot of bigs. Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter, Jonathan Isaac, Goga Batatse. They got some bigs that are tough to handle, and Quentin Post, who's taking a big step defensively so far this year, did it again tonight, and no defensive possession is finished until you get the defensive board, and Post grabbed 8 defensive boards. He grabbed 12 as a whole. There were 4 offensive and 8 defensive. I thought Quentin Post had himself a really good game in this one as well. Trayce Jackson-Davis, as he's getting kind of inserted back into the rotation and seems like he's there to stay, at least for the time being. I thought he, much like Quentin Post, did a pretty darn good job as well defensively and on the glass. 12 minutes, 4 boards, 4 points for Trayce Jackson-Davis. Missed a layup, missed a dunk in the fourth quarter. That was garbage time, not that big of a deal. Solid stretch of play for Trayce Jackson-Davis as well. And then you look elsewhere in the rotation, and you kind of got some of the lower minute guys. Will Richard didn't score today, played 13 minutes. He was rewarded for his 20-point outburst on Saturday versus Dillon Brooks and the Suns, and he was back in the rotation today, played 13 minutes, did not score, but didn't necessarily play poorly, just wasn't his game in this one. Pat Spencer played 12 minutes, scored a couple of points. It was garbage time free throws when the Chase Center crowd was chanting MVP for Pat Spencer, by the way, which was one of the more fun moments in this one. DeAnthony Melton didn't do anything amazing offensively, 4 points, 1 of 6 from the field, but solid defense for him, and the Warriors hold the Magic to 97 points, and they only shoot 41% from the field. So this was, to me, the epitome of a team victory, and while I think it's foolish to expect that kind of performance from Podziemski, from Moses Moody every single game, this is the glimpse into what the Warriors can be if you get that consistency. Generally speaking, night in and night out, what you're going to get from Steph Curry, what you're going to get from Jimmy Butler. If you get anything close to this from Podziemski and Moody on a consistent basis, this team suddenly jumps into an echelon that they have not yet been in this year. This is a sign. This, maybe not a sign. This, though, I think should suggest to you how good the Warriors can be if you get that consistency from some of the, quote-unquote others, like Podziemski and Moody. If they play anywhere near this, the Warriors are going to be a really, really good basketball team. Maybe the one thing that was not good that came out of this basketball game was there was a moment in the third quarter where, and if you haven't seen the video, I suggest taking a look online because it is available. It's all over Twitter. If you're a Warrior fan and you're on Twitter, you open up the app, you'll probably see it pretty quickly. There's a video circulating that in the third quarter, after Steve Kerr called the timeout, and I want to get the exact moment right for you. So if you're maybe watching on you have the game taped, and you want to go back and see the exact moment when it happened. 8 minutes and 31 seconds left in the third quarter. Warriors up by 5. Steve Kerr calls a timeout because Draymond Green committed a turnover and Quentin Post committed a foul, a transition take foul. After the turnover, it resulted in Desmond Bane making the take foul free throw, and then Anthony Black hitting a 6-foot turnaround jumper. So a 3-point possession right there for the Magic, and the Warriors lead, which was, it was Orlando that took the lead at that point. They were up by 5. They were up by 2, and then they go up by 5. And actually, right before that, the Warriors had tied the game. It was 66-66. You had a Wendell Carter putback layup, and then those 3 points I was just talking about after the Draymond Green turnover. Just before the Draymond turnover was a Steph turnover. So it's a 5-0 Orlando run, consecutive Warriors possessions ending in turnovers, and then a transition take foul. 5-0 Orlando run. They go up by 5, 71-66. And then Steve Kerr calls a timeout, as I think he should have. Back-to-back turnovers, and the Warriors were largely very good taking care of the basketball in this one. They committed just 13 turnovers. Orlando only scored 9 points off of those turnovers. The Warriors, meanwhile, forced Orlando into 18 turnovers, and the Warriors scored 21 points off of those turnovers. So the Warriors were a plus 12 in the turnover category. I mentioned the second chance points category, 24-9 in favor of the Warriors. The Warriors dominated the hustle stats tonight, and I think that's a big credit to Podziemski and Moses Moody specifically. GP2 some in the first half, Guy Santos some in the second half as well. But back-to-back turnovers. 2 of the Warriors' 13 turnovers came in the span of like 20 seconds early in the third quarter. And Steve Kerr, as he should, calls a timeout to settle things down. During that timeout, if you see the video circulating online, I don't think I wasn't watching the TV broadcast on NBC Sports Bay Area as I'm here at Chase Center. So I don't think you could see it on TV, but you could see it on this video that was filmed by some fans sitting in the stands right behind the Warriors bench, where Steve Kerr and Draymond Green, I think an argument is a fair word to describe it as. They were going back and forth, and it was clearly like basically just the two of them talking in the huddle, talking, not like screaming, but kind of, there was some emotion behind the words that were being said. At one point, Moses Moody gets up off the bench, kind of stands between Steve Kerr and Draymond Green, facing Draymond, saying some words to him, I would imagine, trying to calm him down. Eventually, like this little back and forth between Steve Kerr and Draymond Green lasts for, about 30 seconds, and then Draymond Green gets up off the bench and walks down the tunnel back towards the locker room. I don't think he was seen on the bench for the rest of the third quarter, which means he was back in the locker room for like the final 8.5 minutes of the third quarter. He came back out onto the bench to begin the fourth quarter wearing a warm-up jacket, I believe, with the hoodie on, and he did not play the rest of the game. Now, it's important to note, from that moment on, when it was 71-66 Orlando, when Steve Kerr called that timeout, the score the rest of the way was, let's see if I can do this math in my head. The Warriors had 66, and they finished with 120, so that's 54 points for the Warriors, 54-26 the rest of the way for the Warriors. 54-26 the rest of the way for the Warriors from that moment, and that was, again, without Draymond Green playing another second. Now, if you want to say that there's a correlation there, you can be my guest. But the Warriors did play their best stretch of basketball tonight once Draymond Green checked out. And we're going to hear Steve Kerr coming up in just a little bit. And Cam, let me know when you have it, because I think this is what a lot of people are going to want to be talking about tonight, because this is a pretty big deal. I know Steve Kerr addressed it postgame. I want to get that out as soon as we possibly can. And you know what? Cam just told me he has it. So let's hear from Steve Kerr now. Steve Kerr, I'm sure, is going to talk about Podziemski, about Moses Moody, about Jimmy Butler, about Quentin Post's defense and his rebounding and all that, but you're also going to want to hear what Steve Kerr had to say about Draymond Green. So let's hear from Coach Kerr, then we'll get your texts and your calls, 888-957-9570. Again, the context that you need, Warriors go through a bit of a struggle offensively for a couple of possessions, back-to-back turnovers, 5-0 Orlando lead. They take a 5-point lead. Steve Kerr calls timeout. Kerr and Draymond kind of argue a little bit on the bench. Draymond walks down the tunnel. Steve Kerr, you're going to hear Steve Kerr say it, but Steve Kerr said it was his decision, Draymond's decision. Steve Kerr did not tell him to leave. Draymond just got up and left. and then he came back between the third and fourth quarters. You'll hear everything that Steve Kerr had to say, and then we'll continue to break this basketball game down and take your calls and your texts, again at 888-957-9570. But again, the Warriors win this basketball game 120-97 in a really true strength in numbers style for the Warriors tonight. But for now, here's Steve Kerr addressing the media after tonight's Warriors win over the Orlando Magic.
How would you describe the nature of the conversation you and Draymond had on the bench in the third quarter before he went to the locker room?
Yeah, we got into it, obviously, and I took the time out just because I thought we lost our focus there a little bit, and so we had it out a little bit, and he made his decision to go back to the locker room to cool off, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It's everything is private, and I got nothing further to add.
Would you? I mean, he didn't play the last 20 minutes. Would you have gone back to?
No, he wasn't going back in.
Did he? And was that a decision by him or you?
Well, he left. He went back to the locker room, and so we moved forward, and the guys played great. It's a hell of a win, really good second half, and I'm very proud of the team. And like I said, nothing more to discuss from my end.
Just to clarify, he went to the locker room. He wasn't sent to the locker room.
Right.
Steve, you've been through a lot of different stuff in your career. How does the group move forward after that kind of exchange happens in a game?
The group's ready to go. I mean, you could see the game tonight, and we need Draymond, and he's a champion, and we've been together for a long time, and all we can do is the rest of the group keep pushing, keep getting better. I thought this was one of our better games. I thought the first half was brilliant. We just didn't make shots. I thought Draymond played great. The whole team was really, really good, but we were 3 for 18 from the three-point line. We just couldn't make anything in the first half, but the process was great. That continued through the second half, and it's unfortunate what happened, but it happened.
To what you're saying, you don't think it'll linger?
No.
Steve, this is the second time in a row that the team has kind of responded to Draymond's absence in a positive way. Did it mean anything?
Means we got guys on the bench who are dying to play. I mean, this is the NBA, and all these guys have their careers at stake, and they want to win, they want to play, and if their opportunity comes up, they're ready to go.
And Jimmy was really efficient in the first half. Steph couldn't get much going, and then it flipped in the second half where Steph came out on fire. Yeah. That kind of tag team action, what do you take from that?
It's two of the best players in the league. When we got Jimmy last year, that's what it looked like. 2 stars carrying the team. Draymond at center, holding down the defense. We go 23-8. We win a round in the playoffs. So we've seen this. It's just here in the early part of this season, we haven't been able to capture that same momentum. But I've been saying this for weeks. I'm very confident in this group, and I think we're gonna find it. And I think you saw, what that can look like tonight.
I think Podziemski was plus 36 tonight. How important is it for this group for him to be playing like he has for the past couple weeks?
Yeah, he's a hell of a player. We've seen it. He's had his ups and downs early in his career. This is year 3. Like a lot of young players who are good players, he wants to explore how good he can be, and so sometimes he gets himself in trouble trying to do too much. But when he's at his best, it looks like it did tonight. Ball's moving, he's attacking, rebounding. He's a really good player.
Moses also had a good night, 20 points, defense on Banchero. What did you see from him?
Moses was fantastic, and it's nice to get him back in the starting lineup. As I said, I'd like to keep this lineup, going forward. And Mo, last year when he got into the starting lineup, the last 30 games really thrived. It's a great role for him, guarding the other team's best player and spotting up. playing off of Jimmy and Dre and Steph, and Moses had a fantastic night tonight.
Steve, you guys outscored them 62-50 in the paint. What do you think led to you guys getting in the paint and finishing so well tonight?
Well, I thought we had really good spacing, which gave us driving lanes. Felt like we rebounded, really well. 14 offensive boards, and that's a monster team. And to basically stay even with them on the free throw line and the glass was a big deal for us.
Hello, Coach. Talk about Brandon. He finished the games with 36 plus minus. I was wondering how that data impacts your rotation decision in the future.
Yeah, ever since Brandon got here, he's been one of our highest plus minus guys. And, that number is, it's not always telling about how the game went, but when a guy is consistently on the plus side like Brandon is, he's doing something right. What I like about him is that he's good with almost any lineup. I like playing him with a point guard. I think he's at his best when he can play kind of the combo, handle the ball, move it, and be part of the five-man group rather than being the only point who's dominating the ball. So he really connects a lot of our lineups.
And about center selection, I was wondering how did you make a decision between the TJD and QP? Obviously, they bring the different skill sets on the table.
The difference between QP and Trace? And Trace, yeah. They complement each other really well. I mean, they're very different players, obviously. And, Quentin has just grown so much defensively this last year. Gotten stronger, more athletic. You saw the block shot tonight he had in the paint. And then Trace comes in and he gives us a different look, more of a roller, finisher at the rim. And it's really exciting seeing these young guys, start to emerge and come into their own.
All right, that's Coach Kerr addressing the media post-game after the Warriors knock off the Magic 120-97. You can just tell based on the length of that Steve Kerr presser, plenty to talk about, and like 99% of it is just absolutely great things for the Warriors. It is what Podziemski did. It's what Moses Moody did, what Quentin Post did, Trace Jackson-Davis, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry's third quarter. And then the one thing at the very, very beginning of that press conference with Steve Kerr was what happened with Draymond Green. I got more thoughts. I'm going to share them with you when we come back. Plus, we got time for your calls. I see guys on hold. We're coming to you when we come back at 888-957-9570. Plus, Draymond Green also went to the podium. One thing that Draymond Green deserves a ton of respect for everything he's done as a basketball player. The most unique defender that I've seen in my lifetime watching NBA basketball. One thing that Draymond deserves credit for is when there's any hint of, and I don't think this is like big drama, and we'll talk more about it, when there's ever any hint of any drama, and Draymond is at the center of it, which he is tonight, because he got up after seemed like an argument, but that kind of argument I would imagine happens very often over the course of an NBA season. He got up and walked down the tunnel, left the bench, and was not with the team for the majority of the third quarter. Whenever he is in the middle of some kind of drama, he always faces the media. Always. Always does. And I credit Draymond for that, and we will hear what he had to say about it when we come back. Steve Kerr's comments, interesting. We'll talk more about that. Plus, as I mentioned, time for your calls at 888-957-9570. Time for a break. It's Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you here on 95.7 The Game. More coming up next right after these messages on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
Looking for lifelong financial guidance? Look no further than Pettinelli Financial Partners, your dedicated financial coaches for every stage of life's journey. Whether you're planning for retirement, starting a family, or buying a home, we're here for you every step of the way. Visit PettinelliFP.com. The financial consultants at Pettinelli Financial Partners are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Stratos Wealth Partners, a registered investment advisor. Stratos and Pettinelli are separate entities from LPL Financial.
And we're out. Back in 60.
Hey, what are you eating?
Chimichurri filet mignon. It's a Factor meal.
Oh, nice. Wait, they let you eat like that in the pros?
Oh, they insist on it. A pro's work starts on the plate.
Oh, man, that does look good. Let me have a taste.
Mm-mm. Get your own.
All right. Where do I find this? Is it factormeals.com?
Yep, and they've got a deal going on.
Oh, love a deal. I am so in.
Smart move. Pro move.
All right. Factor. Eat like a pro.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Now it's time for the closer of the week. Presented by LiftMaster and RNS Doors. Turn your garage into the envy of the neighborhood. Visit rnsdoors.com.
This week's closer comes from Gabby from Oakland. Great work by Lupe and Juan. They repaired our roll-up door promptly without disrupting our operations, and now it looks and sounds even better than before. Thank you, RNS.
Recently, my garage door opener was not working. I was in need of a closer. I was put in touch with RNS Doors, and they hooked me up with a brand new garage door opener from LiftMaster. With LiftMaster's MyQ connectivity, my garage door opener can be controlled right from my smartphone. You'll know when a door or gate has been left open and can close it with a tap, no matter where I am. Be one of the first 10 callers and receive 20% off a LiftMaster garage door opener.
Call 1-800-FIX-A-DOOR. That's 800-FIX-A-DOOR. Or visit rsdoors.com. R&S Doors. Look for the red truck.
Neuropathy is a debilitating condition that is sometimes misdiagnosed. Symptoms can include pain, numbness, and tingling in your hands, legs, and feet. Neuropathy is a progressive condition that only worsens unless you get effective treatment. SF Bay Wellness is a leader in neuropathy reversal and uses FDA-cleared, non-invasive electric cell therapy to restore nerve function with no injections, no drugs, and no surgery. The treatments have a 95% success rate. If distance is a factor, ask about our virtual consultation option. Call SF Bay Wellness at 844-94-NERVE for the $99 neuropathy evaluation and receive a personal treatment plan that is tailored to your needs. Don't wait another day. Call 844-94-NERVE. That's 844-94-NERVE. Why keep suffering with the painful symptoms of neuropathy? You deserve to live a pain-free life. Start getting the treatment you need for your neuropathy symptoms. Call today.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Paid for by Reliable Legal Marketing.
Attention California residents. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, including chronic lymphocytic leukemia, a common subtype, is one of the most common cancers in the United States. If you or loved one was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or chronic lymphocytic leukemia and were exposed to Roundup weed killer, you could be entitled to cash compensation. Bayer, the owner of Roundup, has agreed to pay more than $10 billion to cancer victims linked to the weed killer. Call our Weed Killer Cancer Hotline now to see if you're entitled to cash compensation. If you or someone you love has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or chronic lymphocytic leukemia and were exposed to Roundup, call now. Our attorneys have the experience and specialize in fighting for everyday people to get the compensation you deserve. If you or a loved one was diagnosed, even if a loved one has passed away, call 800-341-4933 now. But hurry, time is limited. Call 800-341-4933. 800-341-4933.
Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome. Will Trial Law, LLC, 1001 Bannock Street, Denver, Colorado, 80204.
Come into Friedman's Appliance in Pleasant Hill and see an amazing selection of Sub-Zero, Wolf, and Cove appliances live and on display in one of the largest living kitchens in the country. And save with Full Suite Savings Event. With qualifying purchase, get 3 additional years of protection or qualify for a $1,000 rebate. For the largest selection of Sub-Zero, Wolf, and Cove appliances, visit the Living Kitchen at Friedman's Appliance in Pleasant Hill or at friedmansappliance.com.
Honey, that flu keeping you up? Did you take NyQuil Intense Flu?
Nah, I got this. Okay, I don't got this.
Yeah, you need NyQuil Intense Flu.
Undo your flu with NyQuil Intense Flu. NyQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms so you can sleep.
You do got this.
NyQuil Intense Flu. The nighttime sniffling, aching fever. Best sleep with the flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Spencer directing traffic. Whips it over to Moody along the left wing. Moody doesn't like the entry pass. Returns it to Spencer. Spencer at the elbow. Drives to a dishing Butler as he dumps it off, and Butler rising up for the stuff. A two-hand flush for Jimmy Butler. He's got 21. 109-91 Golden State. 5.5 to go in the ball game. That was some great vision from Spencer.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, that was Jimmy Butler's last bucket of the game, up to 21 points. He finished with 21 points on 7 of 9 from the field. Great to hear Evan Giddings call the action. Filling in for Tim Roy tonight here on 95.7 The Game. And it was a nice Warrior win, 120-97 the final. This game was tight through the majority of the basketball game. At the end of the third, the Warriors led by 6 at 89-83. The run, though, really began late in the third quarter because Orlando had an 81-80 lead with 3:50 left in the third quarter. Warriors closed the third quarter on a 9-2 run, then opened the fourth on a 24-9 run. So the Warriors 33-11 over the span of about 13 minutes, spanning the end of the third and the beginning of the fourth quarter. That's a little more than a quarter's worth of basketball. The Warriors outscored Orlando 33-11. The offense was relatively free-flowing, 33 points in 13 minutes. You will take that, but the defense is what won the Warriors the basketball game during that stretch. They only allowed 11 points for Orlando in about 13 minutes of basketball. That is, in today's NBA, an incredible number, and it's a major credit to the Warriors defense in this one. Now, Orlando down a number of key players. Paolo Banchero, one of the more popular players among NBA fans on this Orlando team. For my money, not their best or most important player. I think it's Franz Wagner. Jalen Suggs is also very, very valuable. Those two were out in this basketball game and did not play. Also, young guy Tristan Da Silva, second-year player, did not play in this game as well. So they're missing a number of key pieces. This was not a fully healthy Orlando team tonight, but the Warriors have lost to a number of not fully healthy teams this year. So all that matters is getting the win, and the Warriors got the win, and they got a blowout win with a dominant fourth quarter. 31-14 was the score in the fourth quarter, and the Warriors win by a final score of 120-97. Okay, we're preparing the Draymond Green postgame presser for you. If you missed it, Draymond Green and Steve Kerr got into a bit of a back-and-forth argument on the bench. Steve Kerr admitted to it, and Draymond Green's going to talk about it. Steve Kerr said, quote, "We had it out a little bit. He made his decision to go back to the locker room to cool off. That's all I'm going to say about it." So in the middle of that timeout, after about a half hour, 30 seconds of argument between Steve Kerr and Draymond on the bench, which also included Moses Moody, by my opinion, trying to play peacemaker, it ended with Draymond Green getting up, walking off the bench, walking down the tunnel, and going back to the locker room, and he did not rejoin the team on the bench until the beginning of the fourth quarter. We already heard what Steve Kerr had to say about it. We will also hear what Draymond Green has to say about it coming up in just a little bit here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Grandy with you, but if you want to weigh in yourself, do so by calling 888-957-9570. You can also shoot me a text at that same number, 888-957-9570, that's the number for the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. I do see some text coming in there about Draymond. We will get to that. But as promised, out to the phone lines we go because Alex has been hanging on patiently in Oakland. Alex, what's up? Mark Randy with you on Warriors Wrap-Up. What do you want to talk about, Alex?
Yo, what's up, Mark, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. So I got a few things to say, especially about the game in particular tonight. And I'm going to say this again, like I've been saying the last 3 years I've been calling into y'all stations, everybody's show. Play your younger players more, because you're going to get the most out of those guys facing other teams. When Draymond Green went out of the game a couple weeks ago, it's not that the Warriors played better. They played faster. And faster, you're able to hang with these younger teams. They didn't have Jimmy, and they didn't have Draymond, and they didn't have Steph. And they played faster, so they was able to hang with the other teams that's in the league. what's wrong with the Warriors right now is the combinations are not working out. When you got Steph and you got Draymond and you got Jimmy on the floor, everything is bogged down. Everything is a slower pace. That's why you're losing these games. Put the younger players in. Let them guys get a couple of four more minutes of rest, and let the young players take over and let them do what you're paying them to do, which is playing basketball. And another thing, facing Draymond Green, I'm gonna say it like I always say: heroes eventually die. Love Draymond Green. He shouldn't be starting, and that's just something he has to face. He shouldn't be starting, and if his minutes get cut, or put him in when we play those teams that he has really good games against, like he plays Wemby well, he plays Zubac well. Put him in with those when they have those guys they got to play. Put Draymond in now in those games. But let the young players, let Trace Jackson and what's his name, do what they supposed to do. Let them guard the center of the court like they normally do, like they supposed to do.
I hear you, and I appreciate the call, Alex. I appreciate it. I mean, look, there is no doubt that the last two games for the Warriors have given us a glimpse into what the Warriors look like without Draymond on the floor. Draymond got ejected in the first half on Saturday versus Phoenix. It was early in that basketball game. He played just 8 minutes in that game. Warriors got down big early, down by what was it, like 14 points at the end of the first quarter, down by as many as, I believe, 16 in that first half. Now, it's not as if they dominated the rest of the way. They won that game in the final minutes, 119-116, but the Warriors beat a Phoenix team that just had beaten the Warriors in Phoenix 2 nights prior, and they did it largely without Draymond Green. Now, tonight, Draymond plays for the first half and few minutes of the third quarter, so a little more than half of the basketball game he played. He played 18 minutes, and honestly, I thought he was playing good basketball. He was playing really good basketball. Scored 9 points, had 7 boards, 2 assists, only turned the ball over once, which is the number that everyone's keeping an eye on. Remember, the loss in Portland a little more than a week ago now, 8 turnovers. The loss in Phoenix last Thursday, 5 turnovers. 8 minutes played on Saturday, so I don't think it's really fair to look at the turnover number in those 8 minutes, turn it over once. But who knows how many it would have been had he played 20 minutes. 18 minutes tonight, turned the ball over once. That is what you need out of Draymond Green. I don't think Draymond was bad at all tonight. I've honestly thought it was one of his better games recently. 9 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 for 5 from the field. His only missed shot was a 3. And he was playing, solid defense for the most part against a big, tall front line. I don't think Draymond was bad. Like, the Warriors were down by 5 when Draymond played his last second of this basketball game. I don't think it was Draymond's fault. Not at all. It was more, frankly, early in the basketball game on Steph. Steph was 3 for 13 from the field. Now it happens, and he had an amazing third quarter where he did not miss and scored 15 points. But what I don't want people to think is that Draymond played terribly, got upset because maybe his coach called the timeout and said, hey, you can't commit that kind of turnover, because that one turnover he committed was right before Steve Kerr called the timeout. I just want to make sure the record states that Draymond had a good basketball game. He was not playing poorly. And then he and his head coach get into a little bit of a disagreement, an argument, and what Steve Kerr said, which I believe was Draymond kind of checked himself out to go back to the locker room to cool down, because Draymond probably could tell that he was getting emotional and thought it would be better to just not be in the center of it in that moment. So he left the bench, went back to the locker room. Generally, from the outside, when a player leaves the court and leaves the bench, not the greatest sign, but this is Draymond Green and Steve Kerr, who've won 4 championships together, who've been through way more explosive blow-ups than this, by the way, and that's just the ones that we know about. My initial reaction is not a great sign from the outside, but I don't think that Steve Kerr and Draymond Green are at a point where they can't recover from something like this, and I don't really think there's all that much to recover from, honestly. Again, it's not a great sign, but this group has been through a whole lot more. Now, if we're talking purely from an emotional standpoint, that's my feeling. If we're talking from a basketball standpoint, again, we can't ignore the fact that Draymond has missed a big chunk of each of the last 2 games, and in those 2 basketball games, once he left the game, the Warriors played their best basketball. That can absolutely be a coincidence, but it can also absolutely be credit to Quentin Post and the way that he's developing, the way Trayce Jackson-Davis is playing off the bench, an increase in aggressiveness from Jimmy Butler, what Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski did today. There is, we talked so much over the course of the last year, essentially, like 9 months since Jimmy Butler was acquired, how the inclusion of Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green in lineups together kind of limits the combinations the Warriors can work with. Because while Jimmy Butler has been a really good three-point shooter this year, generally speaking, he's not going to be defended very aggressively all the way out to the three-point line. He's shooting a very good clip this year, much better than he did last year with the Warriors. Much, much better, but at a relatively low number of attempts from the outside. And Draymond Green, of course, opponents dare him to shoot the three. So when that's the case for 2 of your 5 guys on the floor, it kind of limits the other guys that you can play out there. So the general logic from Steve Kerr and the Warriors has been it's hard to make, say, Kuminga work alongside Draymond and Jimmy Butler. And Kuminga, by the way, was the only active Warrior that did not play. And that's not fair because Buddy Hield played, but that was only in garbage time. Essentially, Buddy Hield and J.K. were both DNPs tonight. Those were the only DNPs. Guy Santos got in late third quarter, played the end of the third and the beginning of the fourth, and that was all of his minutes in this basketball game, meaningful minutes at least. But with Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green on the floor together, it kind of limits the other combinations that you can work with because you can't put 3 you can, but it's difficult offensively, 3 below-average shooters on the court at the same time. So if Draymond Green is out for a game or gets ejected from a game or checks himself out of a game, it opens up some of the other combinations. It means you can play Trayce Jackson-Davis. Trayce Jackson-Davis generally would play without Draymond Green on the floor oftentimes. Not all the time, but oftentimes. And it's also because Quentin Post is starting, so Quentin Post and Draymond play the 5 and the 4 together on the floor an awful lot over the course of a basketball game. So Draymond Green not being available over the course of a given night or stretch of basketball in a single game might give Steve Kerr a little more ability to mix and match rotations. And the same would be said if, Jimmy Butler was out, because then you have another spot to fill, and maybe that spot could be filled with who you think is a better shooter, someone like a Moses Moody. He slides to the 3, Podziemski checks in at the 2, and that's your 1, 2, and 3. Curry, Podziemski, Moody, instead of Curry, Moody, and Jimmy Butler. So there's just a lot of different moving parts. I don't think 2 games is nearly a big of enough sample to make any kind of sweeping conclusion, but it's something I'm writing down and jotting down. The Warriors, over their last 2 games, different reasons why Draymond did not play chunks of those basketball games, but the Warriors played pretty darn good basketball, which is a good thing, a great thing. Whether you're Draymond Green or you're not Draymond Green, it's a good thing that they're playing good basketball without Draymond on the floor. So we'll see where it goes from here. But interesting what happened tonight, there's no doubt. We're going to hear from Draymond Green coming up, but more on the phone lines. Mark in Petaluma wants to weigh in. Mark wants to talk about Kerr and Draymond as well. What's up, Mark? Oh, sorry about that. Up next, actually, is Jonathan, who was at the game here tonight at Chase Center. What's up, Jonathan? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up with Mark Grandy.
Hey, I love the second half tonight, particularly the fourth quarter. It was nice to see them win 3 quarters instead of 2, which has been the habit lately, especially if they lose the first quarter. So putting it on in the fourth quarter was huge. I think it was probably their biggest well-rounded win in a while. Counting the first Phoenix game in November, I'm 2-0 to start going into the new year.
Nice.
And, watching the games around, it's been a struggle, but it'll be interesting going into January with all the home games, where they're at. I'm probably going to be back for the Atlanta game for Jewish Heritage Night if I can arrange it in the next 2 weeks. And then the only one I don't want them to win, the Miami Heat, I'll be back to see my Heat on Martin Luther King Day. But, tough schedule going into the new year. Even after the Heat, I'm going to see Denver in February, which I've never beaten. But they have all these home games coming up. So this is the time for them to get rolling. And I'm glad they were able to finally put together a good game tonight. We'll see going into January where things stand. But considering how inconsistent they've been, it could be a lot worse. I liked what I saw tonight for sure, and well-rounded mix of guys contributing.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, appreciate the call. And if the Warriors are 2-0 with you in attendance, maybe you do need to get yourself out to more games. The second half was absolutely dominant, and really it was, I think, more like the tail end of the third quarter on. The second half, the Warriors were still very good. Second half was 62-40 in favor of the Warriors. But again, the final essentially 4 minutes of the third quarter and the first 9 minutes of the fourth quarter, the Warriors 33-11. That's 13 minutes of basketball, 33-11. It was a 9-2 run to close the third and a 24-9 run to open up the fourth. Ultimately, the fourth quarter was 31-14. So that 31-14 fourth plus the final 4 minutes of the third quarter, that was 40-16. 40-16 Warriors, final 16 minutes of basketball. 40-16. That's pretty darn dominant. And it was thanks to numerous contributors in this one, which I think is the biggest positive sign for the Warriors, because you will have games where Steph Curry dominates, blows out an opponent with 40 points. And I know we had 48 versus Portland, and the Warriors lost that game. That also happens, and that's a bad sign when Steph can do that kind of thing and the Warriors still lose a winnable basketball game. That's a major trouble sign. But a major positive sign is Steph has, I don't think average is fair to say. He scored 26, and he was amazing in the third where he was 6 for 6 from the field with 15 points. But this wasn't a game where you circle and say, man, this is one of Steph's best games of the year. 26 points, but it took him 23 shots to do it. 10 for 23, 4 for 13 from the field, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. By no means bad, but the efficiency isn't up to Steph's incredibly lofty standards. You get that kind of performance from Steph, which again was not to say he was a negative, because he's nowhere near a negative. Even if he goes 0 for 10 from the field, it's hard for Steph to be a negative offensively. But you get, a ho-hum Steph game for the most part, which always is going to feature some amazing moments because that's who Steph is. But largely, I think most people would say a relatively ho-hum Steph game. 26 points. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the 5 best players to ever play. 26 points is ho-hum for his incredible standards. Yet you win a game by 23 points. That's because of what Jimmy Butler did, what Podziemski did, what Moses Moody did, what Quentin Post did defensively and on the glass, offensive and defensive glass, what Trace Jackson-Davis did off the bench in this basketball game. It's a credit to everybody that played in this basketball game, and that is a major positive sign because, again, I said it earlier, but I will say it again, the contributions the Warriors got today, not that Podziemski has to be a plus 36 every night. That's, of course, not sustainable. And Moses Moody was a plus 20 and plus 23 and scored 20 points. You're not going to get that every single night, but if you can just get, something somewhat similar to that kind of effort and that kind of production from Moody and Podziemski, this is a Warrior basketball team that will be so much better the rest of the year than they have been the first 30. We're 30 games in. They're 15-15. By the way, you remember what the Warriors' record was 30 games in last year? 30 games in last year. They were also 15-15. The Warriors began last year 12-3, so they were 12-3 through 15. Then in their next 15, they went 3-12 to get to 15-15. A different route to 15-15 this year, more basically just hanging out around 500 the entire time, but same results. 15-15, 30 games in. We'll see what the Warriors' final, 52 games have left. has left. You played 30 games, and you got 52 games left. We'll see what the final 52 has in store for the Warriors. We're going to hear from Draymond Green coming up in just a little bit. Let's clean up a couple of these calls, though, before we do that, because Adam in San Jose wants to talk about Draymond Green and this Warrior win. What's up, Adam? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, Mark. Happy holidays. I feel like you're brushing off today's incident with Draymond and Kerr as if it's not a big deal. I know we've seen them argue on the bench several times throughout their careers. They've been together for a very long time. We've seen arguments between players and coaches on the bench across all teams. But the difference with this one is Draymond gave up on his team. Knowing that the team is sitting below 500, he cannot do that. My question to you is, what is the difference between tonight's incident and Draymond walking off the court, basically giving up on his team, and the incident with Devondre Campbell with the 49ers last season, walking off the field and giving up on his team?
Adam, I appreciate your question, and I think it's an interesting one. Devondre Campbell, if memory serves, I've kind of wiped that from my memory because it was such a big deal. He just refused to play. Period. I want to try to get the exact context right. That to me seems he refused to re-enter the game against the Rams after Dre Greenlaw got hurt. Instead, walked to the locker room. That's what Devondre Campbell did. To me, this from Draymond Green is more of, I'm frustrated, I'm mad at Steve Kerr, and we can blame Draymond Green. Steve Kerr called the timeout after Draymond committed the turnover. By the way, also Steph committed the turnover in that stretch. And they get into an argument, and the way that I read the situation, and I'm not saying Draymond is free from blame here, because he got up. You are absolutely right. Adam, you're absolutely right. He got up off the bench and walked back to the locker room. That is not a good sign. I think most people will label it the way that you labeled it, Adam, as he quit on his team. He left the team in the middle of a basketball game. I think my read on the situation is Draymond didn't want to say something that he might regret, or didn't want anything to escalate in public, and said, I'm just going to walk to the back, let myself calm down, and then I will rejoin the team. Now, the optics are not good. You were absolutely right. My point is, from a team perspective, I don't think this is something where Steve Kerr says, man, I just can't get past what Draymond just did tonight. Is he disappointed? We heard what he said. I think Steve Kerr is absolutely disappointed in what Draymond Green did and how this played out. I don't think this is the level of thing that changes the way the Warriors feel about Draymond Green. Are they upset about it? Are they frustrated by it? Yeah, probably. They don't want any of their players to walk off the bench. But on the flip side, you could also argue that it was a sign of, I don't know, knowing yourself or restraint from Draymond to walk away. Now, the flip side argument, and this is a fair argument to make, and I can imagine most people would make it, is, well, don't get to a point where you're going to say something that you might regret. Don't say something that you don't want to be seen in the public. Don't make it seen, and that's absolutely fair. Just the Warriors and Draymond have been through so much. This, to me, feels like just another incident, but not one that changes the way the Warriors in any kind of real way feel about Draymond Green. That's my read on the situation. We're going to hear from Draymond coming up in a little bit. I want to get to one more call before we do that. I'm curious what he had to say. I have not heard yet what he said. You could tell there was disappointment in Steve Kerr's voice. We've heard that before. I remember the game in Orlando versus these Magic a couple of years ago where Draymond got ejected. Steph Curry was on the court, his eyes kind of welling up with tears. And Steve Kerr, I believe he said post-game that night that what Draymond did there was unforgivable. And then I distinctly remember what happened the next time that he joined Willard and Dibbs on 95.7 The Game. Willard and Dibbs asked him about that unforgivable comment, which was directed toward Draymond Green, and what he did in that basketball game, what transpired. And Steve Kerr said, no big deal. We're over it. We need Draymond to win basketball games. So, my only point is it a bad look? Absolutely it's a bad look. Are the Warriors frustrated? Yes, absolutely. I believe that they are. Is this something that like ruins the relationship? No, I don't think so. Now, what I think might hurt the relationship is if the Warriors feel like at a certain point they don't need Draymond to win anymore. And maybe you, Adam, and I appreciate the call, feel like what we've seen the last 2 games might prove that, or at least is evidence in that direction. And you might be right. Maybe the Warriors' reliance on Draymond Green is changing. I don't think 2 games is enough of a sample size to prove that, but this is pretty good evidence that the Warriors can play pretty good basketball without Draymond Green. So we'll see where it goes from here. My only point is I don't think this is a breaking point in any kind of relationship. That's my opinion. Before we get back out to the calls, I do want to remind everybody that you are listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, and Odyssey Sports Station, and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries, always live on the free Odyssey app, coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. All right, up next is, let's see, who do we got here? My mistake. We have George. George is in the city and wants to react to this Warrior win. What's up, George? You're on Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Hi. I watched the game, the whole 4 quarters. I'm really impressed on what Jimmy did. I'm really impressed on what Steph did. And I think I'm really impressed with what Quentin Post did. I mean, he was the starter tonight. One of the things that really impressed me tonight was it was a ball screen, and then he got the ball back and he handed the back ball off, and Steph Curry got the 3-pointer. And I'm really impressed because I kind of see like Quentin Post getting better as screen setting, kind of like how Draymond was a couple years ago. But what I really wanted to call about and talk about was what you thought about the Buddy Hield DNP tonight, and also the Jonathan Kuminga. Like, he didn't really play much. I had 10 minutes and 2 points. And I want to know, on my perspective as a Warriors fan, I honestly don't really.
George, unfortunately, your connection isn't good, but I think I got your large point there. You're breaking up there towards the end, and I actually throughout the call as well. I want to take what you mentioned at the beginning first. You talked about Quentin Post. I thought Quentin Post, it was the Warriors' first bucket of the game. It was one of the more impressive plays I've seen Quentin Post make in a long time. Thanks to Steph Curry and the gravity that he creates, the Warriors had the ball kind of whipping around the perimeter, and Orlando was trying to recover and chase the ball and cover up all those Warrior shooters. The ball eventually got to Post on the left wing, and I forget who was closing out on him. But whoever it was has to respect Post's ability to shoot the ball and has an aggressive closeout. Quentin Post notices this and gives him a nice pump fake. The defender closes out hard, and Quentin Post, 7-footer, not the most fleet of foot, not the best dribbler, still can put the ball on the floor and drives past that guy closing out on him because of that advantage created by Steph's gravity, draws the defense to him on the drive, and he dishes to a cutting Draymond for an easy layup. That was the Warriors' first bucket of the game. Like, Quentin Post is getting to a point, and that's not like an incredibly normal occurrence, but Quentin Post is getting to a point, and I talked about this pregame, where he can have a positive influence on a Warriors team even if the shots aren't going in. And that is like the best way for a young player to gain the trust of a coach and a coaching staff and to get consistent minutes, because you do not need, just if there's only one thing you can do that's positive and that one thing isn't working for you that game, then you can't help your basketball team. But what Quentin Post is doing now is the ways that he can help his basketball team. Make your threes. Okay, that's one way. The second way is defend the opposing 5 and do a good job at that. Okay, that's a new way, and that's another way, and that's a new way for Post this year. A third way is to control the glass, and he had 12 boards tonight, 11 boards on Thursday in Phoenix. Had, I think, just 3 or 4 on Saturday versus Phoenix. But 2 of those last 3 games, double-digit rebounds. That's a third way that he can have a positive influence on a game. And another way, which I saw on that first bucket for the Warriors, was actually create with the ball in your hands. Show an ability to, a couple dribbles, put the ball on the deck, race past a closing out defender and then find the right pass to a cutting big on the baseline for an easy bucket. So what Quinton Post is developing is an ability to impact a game positively when a shot isn't falling. And your shot is not going to fall every game. And if your shot isn't falling and you have nothing else to lean back on, you're going to get pulled and you might fall out of the rotation entirely if you go through a shooting slump. But what Quinton Post can do now, in my opinion, is go through a shooting slump and still play because he's proving valuable in other ways. That's what I'm seeing from Quinton Post. On the other thing that George brought up, talking about some of the rotation decisions from Steve Kerr, and we're going to hear from Draymond Green coming up momentarily. I think you misspoke, George. You said Kuminga played 10 minutes. Maybe I misheard you. Kuminga was the DNP tonight. Guy Santos played 10 minutes, all in the second half. Majority of minutes came late third, early fourth. Buddy Hield only played 3 minutes in garbage time. So essentially the DNPs were Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga. And frankly, I can't blame Steve Kerr for that. The way that Will Richard played on Saturday, he absolutely needed to play tonight, and Will Richard didn't do anything amazing tonight, didn't score in 13 minutes, 0 for 2 from the field, both were threes. Didn't do anything that stood out to me as like patently terrible either. But the way that Buddy Hield is shooting the ball of late, the way that Buddy Hield, again, what I'm just talking about with Quinton Post, Buddy Hield, shot is not falling, and if his shot is not falling, it's hard for him to have a positive influence on your team. So until you see something that changes that, I don't know how you can consistently play him major rotation minutes when the other players on your roster include guys like Will Richard and Guy Santos and Pat Spencer, who largely find ways to be a positive influence out there even if their offense isn't working for them. So I have absolutely no reason to disagree with Steve Kerr about the decision to not play Buddy Hield tonight in any meaningful minutes. Played 3 minutes again in garbage time. On Kuminga, it's much of the same. I didn't see a spot for him out there tonight, and I didn't at any point feel like this was a game that was begging for Jonathan Kuminga. Now, I think Steve Kerr needs to be very careful, in my opinion, with how he chooses to discuss the Kuminga situation, because it was just last week where he said at practice, I believe this was before the game in Phoenix. It was the bunch of days the Warriors had off, because they played Sunday in Portland and then Thursday in Phoenix. I believe the Warriors practiced, they practiced a bunch of those days, but Kerr talked before or after practice on either Tuesday or Wednesday. I think Wednesday, an early practice before they flew to Phoenix later that day, and he said, Kuminga's been great since, kind of getting benched and falling out of the rotation, and he earned another opportunity. I got to get him back out there. And he played, 6 minutes in that game in Phoenix? I'll get you the exact number. It was a couple of minutes to begin the third, or to begin the second, and a couple of minutes to begin the fourth quarter. Kuminga in that game played 10 minutes. It was 5 minutes each. 1 of 5 from the field, 2 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist and a turnover. Nothing amazing, but again, only 10 minutes. It's kind of hard to prove yourself in that moment. Then he was sick versus Phoenix on Saturday and didn't have the opportunity to play. And what happened in that moment was, again, someone like a Will Richard dominated and earned another opportunity. So what happens tonight? Jonathan Kuminga, a healthy DNP, CD. That stands for did not play, coach's decision. And again, I can't blame Steve Kerr for that decision tonight. But what I will say, and it's what I kind of talked myself in a circle here, but what I will say is I do think, because I think this is damaging to a player's emotions, is Steve Kerr, I would recommend Steve Kerr maybe be a little more careful with what he says about Jonathan Kuminga, because we've been down this road before where he says Kuminga's going to be a starter based on the way Kuminga's playing early. And then relatively quickly after that, Kuminga's no longer starting. And Kuminga earned another spot in the rotation. Plays once, plays 10 minutes, and now is another DNP. I get it, because, again, from a basketball standpoint, I can't argue with it. But if the rotation decisions are all that fickle, then I don't know. I don't think you need to say that he's going to be back in the rotation. I know that's not exactly what Steve Kerr said, but that was the messaging, the way that a lot of people took it. So, I don't know. Just my 2 cents. I don't think this game called for Kuminga, and I cannot blame Steve Kerr for the decision that he made to not play him tonight. But at the same time, the way that he's been talking about Kuminga of late makes it seem like he's going to play him, and he didn't. So we'll see how it all plays out from here. I'm sure the messaging is different behind the scenes than what's happening publicly, and that is absolutely fair. But based on what has been said publicly, I could feel like it might be a bit of a shock to some that Kuminga did not play tonight because of what Steve Kerr said about it just last week. All right, 888-957-9570. Let's hear from Draymond Green, if we have it, guys. Let me know if we do, Cam. We got it? Okay. Let's hear from Draymond Green, who addressed the media postgame, and then we got a little bit more time for your calls and your texts if you want to weigh in. But Draymond Green spoke to the media postgame tonight. Again, I credit Draymond whenever there is some kind of drama centered around Draymond. He always speaks to the media, and that is something that I think he deserves credit for. Draymond Green got into a bit of an argument on the bench with Steve Kerr after Steve Kerr called the timeout and presumably, my opinion, probably said something to Draymond about a turnover that he just committed. He's had some turnover issues of late. That one was his first of the game tonight. It happened early in the third quarter. They get into a bit of an argument. It goes on for 30-ish seconds. Moses Moody steps in, tries to play peacemaker. Draymond eventually stands up, walks off the bench, down the tunnel, into the locker room, and does not rejoin the team until the beginning of the fourth quarter. Steve Kerr said, we got into it a little bit. It was unfortunate, but it happened. He also said that he was not going to play Draymond again, even if he was on the bench in that third quarter. And now we're going to hear what Draymond Green had to say. Here he is, Draymond Green addressing the media postgame after the Warriors knocked off the Magic 120-97. Here's Draymond Green.
Draymond, what happened and why did you leave the bench?
Temper spilled over, and I just thought it was best that I get out of there. I don't think there was a situation where it was going to get better. So it was just best to remove myself, that's it.
What caused the argument?
Basketball. It's what we do. We play basketball. It's an emotional game. People lose their emotions. Sometimes it happens. It is what it is. We've been at this now for a long time, So sometimes you with people for a long time, there's a level of comfort, and it happens. We move forward.
Do you feel like this will linger at all?
No, we move forward. We move forward.
Have you and Steve been able to talk about it since?
No, he had to talk to y'all. Everybody's doing their thing, but we're good. We'll move forward. We're all right.
It came after a couple of turnovers in the third. What's your level of frustration right now, I guess, with your play right now?
I'm not frustrated at all. I had one turnover today. I had the ball the whole time I was in the game. So I know how to fix problems when they're a problem. I had one turnover in my minutes, and I essentially ran our offense today. So
how do you feel? 15-15, y'all obviously won tonight. Just generally, where do you feel this team is at right now?
I think we're headed in the right direction. No one's happy about being 15-15, but I think we're starting to figure out different things, rotations, and who we are as a team. So I think that's all starting to come together, and we're looking a lot better.
Draymond, Brandon said that you were still talking a ton on the bench when you came back. You guys outscored them 62-40 in the second half. What did you see that was working the best tonight?
The ball moved. We moved the ball. We got, the shots started falling. I thought we played a great first half, and shots just didn't fall. But then the shots start falling. You continue to play that way, both defensively and offensively, making the right play. The shots will start to fall, and they started to go in the second half. They just wouldn't go in the first half.
Draymond, you mentioned it. You guys have been through a whole hell of a lot through the years. Why don't you think this particular episode will linger?
because none of the other ones ever have. Still keep winning, so it'll be all right.
When you left the bench for the locker room, did you know that was going to be it for you tonight? And when you came back to the bench, did you expect to go back?
I mean, I was going back to the bench, I'm going to be available for my teammates. I'm never going to quit on my teammates. So, but it's also not my decision whether I go back in the game or not. But, I thought I owed it to my teammates to be there and never quitting on them, so. But it's no issue with me not going back in either. I was quite stiff, to be honest, so it's probably better I didn't go back in.
Hello, Draymond. You talk about move forward, but how did you make sure that move forward is going to the right way?
Do the right things, as long as the objective is to win, and that's the main objective, then the only way forward is the right way, if that's the objective.
You guys didn't expect to be 15-15 after 30 games. I mean, not at all. So how much of that...
Probably while tempers are flaring.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. I mean, is that a factor in some of the frustration?
Of course. Quite honestly, if everybody's okay with being 15-15 and it's just whoop-de-doo, talk to me when they're 41-41. Can't be whoop-de-doo and you 15-15. Something got to give. So... But we were 13-15, so I'll take 15-15. Just means it's headed in the right direction.
Dre, over here. You had the ejection in the last game, and obviously it was real emotional. Do you see this as a carryover from that at all, or?
No, you see me playing. I was playing pretty damn. I was moving well, and so no, but it wasn't carryover for me. I thought I was just fine.
Draymond, do you feel like if you were feeling like it was too hot, the situation was just too hot, and you needed to leave the bench, did you feel like that was a moment of growth or responsibility for it not to get bigger than it was, or how do you view?
I just thought that was best for me, and everybody. Like, you stay in a hot situation, there's no way to stop it. So I just wanted to remove myself from it.
And then did you want to make sure you came to the podium to talk about it, to address it?
For sure.
Hey, Draymond. Talking about frustration, how do you differentiate between frustration that's helpful for the team versus frustration that might not be?
I think if your frustration is about doing the right things and everything moving the right direction, it's not going to always be as vanilla as you want it to be. So I think that's how you make sure it's positive. As long as it's directed towards what the main goal is, then everybody can figure it out and you can work through it. If it's not directed at that, then you kind of sink. So what I know is everybody around here want to win. And we have not done that at a high level this year. So we're trying to figure that out.
Did anybody come back and talk to you?
Yeah. Yeah, that was fine.
In other words, what did you do back there in the moment in between?
Stretch. It was good. I was real loose, and then I got cold.
How would you describe you've talked about it over the years. You've had these with Steve before. Just how would you describe your relationship, however many years in, with Steve?
We've won a lot of championships together. A lot of success. He's had a lot of success as a coach. I've had a lot of success as a player. Those things can never be taken away, so we continue to move forward, figure out what we need to do to win games, and that's the most important thing.
All right, that's Draymond. Draymond speaking to the media post-game, and, of course, the main subject, if you missed it, you're not online, because this is where I think most people are seeing the video. I don't know this for sure. Someone can correct me. I was at Chase Center. I'm here at Chase Center still, so I did not watch the television broadcast on NBC Sports Bay Area. I'm not sure if the television broadcast caught this. I don't think they did, considering it was during a timeout, and I would imagine a commercial break. But during a timeout, early third quarter, after a Steph Curry turnover and a Draymond Green turnover in a 5-0 Orlando run, there was an argument between Steve Kerr and Draymond Green on the bench. At one point, Moses Moody got up and tried to play peacemaker, stood between the two. It was nothing at all physical, nowhere near a physical thing, just a verbal back and forth. It was more than just talking. It was an argument. Moses Moody stands up and gets between the two, and not, again, to keep them away from each other, but looking at Draymond and saying something to Draymond. Eventually, the argument lasts for about 30 seconds. Draymond stands up, gets off the bench, walks down the tunnel, and presumably all the way back to the locker room. And he did not go back out onto the bench until the break between the third and fourth quarter, where he then rejoined the team in the warm-up hoodie, and he did not play the rest of the basketball game. It happened to coincide with the Warriors' best basketball of the game, and they ultimately win 120-97, thanks in part due to a run, a 9-2 run to close the third, and then a 24-9 run to begin the fourth, and overall a 31-14 fourth quarter overall. And that's the story of this basketball game. Again, I'll say it. I credit Draymond Green for addressing the media. It's very easy I'll put it this way. There are a lot of other players around the NBA who, if something were to happen like what happened tonight, they would not address the media postgame. They would not. So you can be upset at Draymond, and you could think this is the final straw. If you feel that way, you are free to feel that way. All I'm going to say is I credit Draymond for facing the music, because clearly this was something. It was not nothing. You heard what Steve Kerr said about it. You could hear how introspective and I don't know. Draymond took his time thinking about what he wanted to say. You could tell that this was something. It's not nothing. It's not something you could just sweep under the rug immediately. It was something. Steve Kerr was clearly disappointed and frustrated. But I do credit Draymond for, having the guts to face the media and to talk about it, because there are so many other players who would not do that. Now, again, I don't want to minimize what it was. Now, it's not, in my opinion, the end of the world, because these two guys, Draymond and Steve Kerr specifically, have been through so much and so much worse than this that I don't have a hard time imagining them being able to get through this, and I would imagine they will be fine, and Draymond will start in the Warriors' next game when Clay and Cooper Flagg are in town on Christmas. That's the Warriors' next game. Christmas Day at 2, Clay, Cooper Flagg, and the Mavericks are in town. I would imagine, and I expect Draymond Green to be starting in that basketball game. Now, with that said, it is not nothing, because you heard Draymond say, I'm not going to quit on my teammates ever, and that's why he rejoined the team on the bench after hanging out in the locker room or down the tunnel or wherever he was for the final, 8.5 minutes of the third quarter. I know some would think him leaving the bench in the first place constitutes quitting on the team. Draymond would disagree, and he returned to the bench to be there with the teammates. And I forget who said it, but he was still talking on the bench when he came back, and he was engaged, not like he was just sitting there pouting the whole time. It's interesting, though. It's interesting because it comes, again, during the game where the Warriors play one of their best second halves of the season, and specifically their best fourth quarter, one of the best fourth quarters of the season, and it happened without Draymond Green on the floor. Now, I will say, again, what has gotten the Warriors through a lot of the Draymond stuff in the past, and there has been a lot of the Draymond stuff. What has gotten them through it, or what has been maybe the beginning of getting them through it, was the absolute 100% truth that the Warriors need Draymond Green to win basketball games. I personally still think that's the case. Maybe you feel differently. One thing that I will say is the second that Draymond Green does not become essential to the Warriors winning basketball games, it becomes so much more difficult for the Warriors to deal with things like what happened tonight. And if the Warriors feel that way, I don't think they do, but if they do feel that way, then maybe this is something bigger than what I'm making it out to be. I don't think they are there yet. I don't think that Draymond is at a point where he's not valuable to the Warriors as a basketball player. Is he what he once was? No, it's difficult to be when you've been in the league for as long as Draymond has, much like it's difficult for Steph, although Steph is a different animal. But I still think that he's very valuable to this basketball team. Now, again, it is interesting because the last 2 games, you've seen a lot of Draymond not on the floor, and the Warriors have won both of those basketball games. So at the very least, there is a little bit of evidence here that the Warriors can win basketball games without Draymond. They can play good basketball without Draymond. But again, if you don't get a great Moses Moody game tonight, you don't get a great Podziemski game tonight, and there will be so many Warrior fans that will say, we haven't gotten that for the majority of the season. Do you feel as good about tonight without Draymond Green, without those performances? It's very easy to get lost in a small sample size and just extrapolate that out to the rest of the season. But all I'm going to say is a 2-game sample, and not even a 2-game sample, because Draymond played in chunks of both those games, and tonight a relatively large chunk. There's a lot of misleading individual trends that we could point to. Tonight was not nothing, though, and we'll see where the Warriors go from here. I think it's a bump in the road, and it's another, Draymond and Steve Kerr went at it a little bit, and we'll see if they can figure it out. And my opinion is I do think that they're going to figure it out. We'll see how it all plays out. But it is unfortunate because this has been the majority of Warriors wrap-up tonight, and it's been a long show, almost an hour and a half. And we're going to get out of here in a minute, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot on the airwaves tomorrow, despite the fact that the Niners dominated the Colts in Indianapolis tonight, and Brock Purdy threw 5 touchdowns. I'm going to head home and watch that game myself right now. I've seen some of the highlights but haven't seen the full game. I'm excited to watch what Brock Purdy did and what Phillip Rivers did. I imagine you're going to hear a lot of about Draymond Green and the Steve Kerr conversation tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game, which is disappointing in my opinion because it takes away from what an amazing game Podziemski had, what an amazing game Moses Moody had. You got more excellence from Jimmy Butler, and you had a great third quarter from Steph Curry. That should be the story from this basketball game. Specifically, I think Moody and Podziemski. I thought Podziemski was the best player on the floor tonight on either end. Not just what he did offensively. He had 16 points and 4 rebounds and 5 assists. But what he did, all the dirty stuff, diving on the floor for loose balls, poking balls away, being a pest defensively, tapping rebounds out to open spaces, giving the Warriors extra possessions, which very often led to points. That kept the Warriors in. They had to scratch and claw, the Warriors did, for points in the first half because their shots were not falling. And the hustle from Podziemski and Moody specifically allowed them to have a lead at halftime despite not shooting the ball well at all. And really, the three-point shot wasn't working all game. They shot 11 for 37 from deep, yet they scored 120 points. You know how difficult that is to do? 120 points, and you go 11 for 37 from deep. Sub 30% from downtown, yet you score 120 points because you were 33 for 52. 33 for 52, the Warriors on 2-point shots tonight. They shot 67% from inside the arc. That's a credit to what Draymond Green said. The ball movement for the Warriors tonight was great. And Podziemski had a lot to do with that. Moody did, of course, Steph and Jimmy did as well. And while Draymond played through the first half plus the beginning of the third quarter, he was moving the ball very, very well as well. And the Warriors took care of the basketball. Only 13 turnovers. And the Magic only scored 9 points off of those 13 turnovers. The Warriors back to 500 at 15-15 on the year. And coming up next, again, as I mentioned, Clay, Cooper Flagg, and the Mavericks in town for Christmas. 2 o'clock with the tip time. Of course, you would hear that game right here on 95.7 The Game. All right. That's going to do it for Warriors Wrap-Up tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. A very nice Warrior win, 120-97 over the Orlando Magic. Great games from Podziemski, from Moody, from Jimmy Butler, from Stephen Curry, and a lot of other contributors as well. Quentin Post and Trace Jackson Davis. A Warrior win, and again, they're back to 500 at 15-15. All right. For Cam Williams behind the glass back in our downtown San Francisco studios, thank you. Thanks as well to Steven Risotto getting us all that post-game sound. You heard Steve Kerr. You heard Draymond Green. That's a big shout-out to Steven Risotto. My name is Mark Randy, signing off from Chase Center. Thank you so much for tuning in. Warriors win 120-97. They're back to 500 at 15-15. And also, shout out to Evan Giddings for making his NBA debut behind the mic, calling the game tonight here on 95.7 The Game. I wasn't able to listen being in the arena, but I'm sure he killed it. Can't wait to hear the highlights tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game as well. All right, that'll do it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll talk next time on 95.7 The Game.
Are you like everybody else in the world who has no idea what to get everyone for the holidays? Well, you're in luck. We got you. Hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Because with hands-free Skechers slip-ins, you just step into them and they're on. There's no bending down, no touching, no fuss. Plus, Skechers slip-ins come in everyone's favorite styles and colors. And you can get slip-ins everywhere stylish footwear is sold, including a Skechers store. Or if you're too busy to shop in person, just get them online at Skechers.com, Amazon, and more.
Pros don't just show up. They prove how it's done. With precision and without shortcuts. Makita tools are built the same way. With a dedication to lasting quality. Trusted performance and results